is Alice Lam. I'm born and raised in Calgary. My parents were refugees from Vietnam, ethnically Chinese. I speak Cantonese. Grew up in all four quadrants of the city. So I feel like it's probably what makes me obsessed with Calgary as a whole. And I had a typical life story where I was kind of always like the other person at school, like lower income than everybody else. English was not my first language. And so always, I guess, throughout my whole life, searching for that community, right? Like wanting to find my people, wanting to find my group of friends. And in high school, I finally found those group of people thanks to a website called calgarypunk.com. I was angsty. And I didn't like injustice. I didn't like inequity. And, on this forum was where I found people who cared about taking care of each other and taking care of the community, and also, celebrating and promoting like arts and community and music and stuff. And so through that community for a few years, like we attended and started promoting all ages shows, and doing fundraisers for different nonprofits and charities. And at that time, like the word mutual aid wasn't really in the vocabulary of a lot of us. It was just kind of like stuff that we did. But if you're familiar with Food Not Bombs, where it was like people giving up food at Olympic Plaza and stuff like that, it was just about direct help. And I think that being able to experience that type of collective organizing and also event planning and seeing results at a young age really just like planted the seed in my mind that like I could do anything, if I had the right group of people around me, if we had the same passion and desire, like we can really make anything happen. And fast forward, I ended up going to school. I did a Bachelor of Arts in Economics and East Asian Studies, and then ended up in France doing graduate school, just like in business. And through that time, I was really focused on social enterprises. Like I never really wanted to be in business school, but we live in like a capitalistic society. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I ended up doing a focus on mostly like corporate culture and social enterprise, and ended up living in New York. And through that time, I was really inspired by this website that existed there that made it super easy for people to volunteer. And I was a part of it. And again, it was like the easiest way for me to find my community and make friends that had similar values, helped me experience new things, learn new skills. And so when the flood happened in Calgary in 2013, I felt like a voyeur just watching all this volunteering stuff happen in Calgary. And I was like, man, I want to be a part of it. Like, this is the first time like people who never volunteered are helping their neighbors. And I just loved how direct and how impactful it was and how much you could get done again when a group of people come together. And so I decided that, I don't know, it just like sparked something inside me. I moved back to Calgary. I started volunteering, like started talking to people about like the causes I wanted to volunteer with. And it was always around immigrant families, because that's just kind of my lived experience. And I really wanted to make sure that kids growing up today in an immigrant or refugee family has a better chance than like I had, or my parents were better supported than the services that they had at the time. Right. And so through volunteering and stuff, I kind of eventually got into light activism in Chinatown. And that's when we did a lot of lobbying of politicians at all levels. We were really fighting for this community. And that's when the anti-racism stuff, like this would have been like 6 years ago. And at that point, people were still really scared to say the racism word, right? Like calling people racist, calling people for just not being inclusive, being performative and stuff. Like we didn't really have those vocabularies like 6 years ago. It was really just like us being treated unfairly and not the same as other communities, especially communities that are mostly Caucasian. And it seemed like whatever the Chinese community complained about in Chinatown, it just was like, it fell on deaf ears. And during that time, I was just so pissed because I was like, this is not fair at all. And the city had like a paper that they sponsored called like Engaging with Ethnocultural Communities that was created by Action Dignity. Well, the predecessor to Action Dignity, which was Ethnocultural Council of Calgary. And I was just like, how could you like fund something that is so well made and not utilize it? And that's where I became very like disenfranchised with like politicians and how that whole thing works. But instead of getting mad about it, I was just like, I'm going to just focus on people, like the reason why people didn't listen to us and people didn't stand up for us is because of a lack of education, awareness, and also a lack of place, like there was nowhere for them to come and help if we wanted to do anything. And so I started a website called Volly, which is like a Tinder for volunteering kind of thing. Like I wanted to make it super easy for people to find volunteer opportunities. And I didn't care what people did for volunteering as long as they got out into their neighborhoods, like whether it was doing community cleanup or tutoring a kid after school or making flowers for seniors. And we got the website. It was all built by volunteers. Like people definitely, they understood the reason why this was a pain point for Calgarians, and they had the desire to make this a more simpler process because they too could see like the benefits that us as a society could have if like all of us just got out and helped each other more. So that was Volly, and we existed for about 2 years, and then the pandemic happened, and we were like, how do we, like, now we have all these people sitting at home and they want to volunteer, but every nonprofit is shut down. And this is kind of where it was like, again, another point where I was like, it doesn't make sense to rely solely on like a not-for-profit or charitable model because it's so corporate and so bureaucratic in a sense that as soon as you have something like this, it's kind of like, oh, well, we're closed. Sorry, see you later. Like we're just, you have to kind of fend for yourselves. And I was just like, okay, people are like literally sitting at home wanting to volunteer in like a social distance manner. We can't lose this opportunity. So that's when Volly became more of like an event planner than it was, not just solely relying on our website, but also creating events ourselves that was like safe to volunteer social distantly. And so it was things like we had volunteers sewing face masks from home when we couldn't get face masks. And we were having volunteers do bouquets for seniors who were isolated and caregivers that were isolated, and doing things like mural projects outside, like things that like, I was just like, it doesn't matter what it is, like people just have a desire to be out there right now just to not feel so alone. So let's make that happen. And I wish that more nonprofits could see the benefit that that would have had for their organization to spread awareness and to like help them gain like this captive loyal audience, but they just didn't at the time. Like everybody was just closed. And so we really got more popular during that time. And so my friends saw me doing all these projects, and they were like, a project that they wanted to do was the community fridge, which is the one behind me. And at the time there was a fridge in Bridgeland already called the YYC Street Fridge, but you can kind of tell from the name and everything that it was not super dignified. Like it was literally just a fridge on the side of a street. And it wasn't particularly like clean and stuff like that. And so Alberta Health Services was really against having like fridges and stuff like that. And so we made a plan. We decided to organize. These were the same people that I used to plan like punk shows with. And we put a plan together. What do we need? How much money do we need? We started a GoFundMe campaign to make it super direct. Like we didn't really want to have to rely on like getting not-for-profit status so that we could apply for a grant per se. And so we did a GoFundMe, and again, all these people, like we raised 15 grand in 3 days just from like individual, like $20, $40 donations. Like it wasn't like large contributions at all. And it just spoke to how great the demand is for something like this, for mutual aid to happen in our community at the time. Like more people, there was so much inequity that was highlighted with Black Lives Matters, with murder, missing Indigenous women, and, all the blockades and things like that. Like people were finally getting educated and finally becoming aware of everything around them outside of their little bubble, and they wanted to help. And so it was just like right time, right place kind of thing. Like we provided that option for them. And since we started the community fridge, we talk a lot about like not wanting to monopolize the mutual aid sector. Like we don't want to be the ones that have to do everything for everyone, and we don't want to be the boss of anyone or gatekeep it either. So right away, right in the beginning of us creating this, we alongside of it created like a guide to how to do your own fridge and how to do it in a way that was like, that spoke to you. Like, here are the nuts and bolts, but what you want to make it look like, your rules, everything, that's completely up to you, because it has to be owned by the community. Like it's kind of like when a franchise moves into a new geographic area and it totally fails because they have like no idea how the local community would respond. They're just like, we're popular here, so we must be popular in this new place as well, without taking into consideration like how loyal people are to like mom and pops or something like that. And this is a similar situation. Like this fridges and pantries and stuff only work if you have a strong local contingent to take care of it. We did ours in Crescent Heights because I work in Crescent Heights and my friends lived in Crescent Heights. And so at the very least, if we had 0 volunteers, we could still manageably take care of this fridge and keep it dignified. Something that we saw at the fridge that happened over and over again was people started dropping off like clothes. People like, they liked the direct nature of it. Like I could drop it off. I knew that somebody who needed it would grab it instead of having to go through the rungs of like a typical not-for-profit kind of structure. And they liked that we didn't ask for ID, there was no security, that it was unlocked, like it was fully accessible 24/7. And we got a lot of critique about that as well, but whatever, like this is how we decided to do it and it's fine. People aren't going to like, people were so concerned about people like doing drug, like it was all very classist type of statements, right? Like, especially when you do something like this. And, you know, it really helped us understand like the fear that larger Calgary community has. And so whenever we did media and things like that, we made sure to really highlight those points and answer those questions. So like, I don't even give you a chance to like make those judgments. And eventually we decided to have our free clothing market outside. It was the same kind of thing. Like we know that there's a lot of clothing that goes to landfills. What if we just redirected it directly to people? Because even having something like Value Village or Goodwill, like it's not accessible to most. People still don't have money. And that was super successful. It was like 3,000 to 4,000 clothing items over like 3 days, like all gone. And eventually we wanted to have one, I think it was February, and it was just like so cold, we had to cancel it. And we kind of like, the organizers and I just like looked at ourselves like, how do we make this sustainable? Because it sucks when people are low income already, they have to travel to come here and then it's closed, you know, just based on the fact that we're like outside. So we kind of just started dreaming like, hey, what if we had an indoor location? And of course, like at that time, it wasn't possible for me to think about like a free space that we got to use or anything like that. Just because I knew that most landlords would require like a certain amount of like rent and things like that. And I talked to a lot of nonprofits that were in the neighborhood saying like, hey, if you guys want to do it, we'll help you set it up. And again, with nonprofits, like things just take longer, right? Like they have to go through a lot more hoops and stuff to make things happen. And this is why mutual aid sometimes is great to pilot stuff, because you can just get something going relatively quickly. There's not a board to kind of approve stuff. Like I don't care about, like we care about risk, but like not as much as like a nonprofit would, you know, like we really are just making sure we don't like our fridge doesn't collapse on somebody, or like, you know, somebody doesn't die on like at the fridge. And so luckily we had a landlord that I used to work for back when I was in university, and he had an empty building downtown, and he said, I'd like to put a fridge on the outside of this building, you know. And we were like, that's not enough, like for an area like downtown, so close to the DI, so close to all, you know, vulnerable populations, like just having a fridge is not going to be enough. And so we kind of just kept lobbying, you know, just kept pestering him, just like eventually he opened the door a crack, and we just like pushed our way in, and just like, we're like, okay, we're here now. But we made it look really cute. Like you can see in the fridge, you can see in Good Neighbor branding, like we really emphasize the importance of collaborating with local artists to make it look super inviting and dignified, and set it up like a normal store, like make sure that it was a comfortable, like it wasn't like the other thing, right? Like where it's like, oh, that's the store poor people go to, or that's the store, like this is something that everybody's welcome and everybody would feel comfortable doing. And it's kind of structured more like a social enterprise more than anything. But for those of you who don't know, Good Neighbor, it's a pay what you want store. So you can come in, pay nothing and still grab stuff, or you can pay whatever, you know, pay whatever you want. And we've been open since last July. And luckily, based on the fact that we don't pay full rent, we just pay basically operating costs. We still have been able to make enough money to cover rent and buy additional food. We hope that this summer will be a lot, you know, winter is kind of slow as per everything, but we hope that this summer we'll have more people coming back downtown to shop again, because last summer we had a really good summer that actually took us through to winter. And yeah, we've been able to, because it's just us, like there's no board or there's no like staff or boss of the place. Like we have meetings once a month. We have like group chats. We try to be as communicative with our volunteers as possible. Obviously, we've had situations where people were like, I thought this was mutual aid. How come it seems like there's just like a group of people who got to make all the decisions? And it's like that at first I got super defensive because I was like, I can't believe you think this of us, you know, because we're trying to just like make this thing into a welcoming place. But then I realized it's on me to communicate how things work and how to explain that although we value all your suggestions and all your, you know, your input, there are some things that unfortunately a group of people get to decide, you know. And once that was kind of communicated and built into our orientation for volunteers and really made sure that they understood that this wasn't pure, because if you've read that book, like the little orange book on mutual aid, like people are like, no, we should be like sitting around consensus model decision making for until we figure it out. And unfortunately, we just don't have the, in a perfect world, yes, but right now we don't have that ability. And there's also some people who just like also always say they want to like be a part of decisions, but then never show up to make them, you know. And so this way we do try to communicate as much as possible, and it's been, that was like our own little, that was the only one little hiccup that we've had. We also really suggest, like in the realm of mutual aid, just like the fridge, like this won't be the perfect thing for you. Like you might hate how we decide to run things or how this group decides to do things, but like if you want to start your own thing, we will help you do that. We will tell you how to do the nuts and bolts, and we will help you with the connections and everything, because like I think that our city is stronger the more little grassroots initiatives spring up, right? Like it just empowers people to learn those same skills that I got to learn when I was 15. And so, yeah, that we've been able to have like pay what you want haircuts. We have pay what you can, like acupuncture. We have different nonprofits that still have a presence in our store. We have a little area that they can set up a table and tell people about their services. We have the Alex come in doing like ID clinics and stuff. So we're not like, you know, opposed to nonprofits and charities. It's just like, how can we work together to make it better and more accessible so that the end user gets the help that they need? That's the most important thing. Because there's also people who come in expecting so much like food, but like demand is super high. Like we stock it every day, multiple times, and the food's gone in like 2 seconds. And so we've actually been printing out like resource lists, like just really simple in different languages, just being like, here's like 3 places you can call that I know for sure you can get food and I know for sure you can qualify. Like there's a lot of people who are just like, I don't even know how to call and do that, right? Or some people just don't have a phone and can't get that going, right? So we, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, is like trying to connect people to resources that exist that they do qualify for. And for the folks who just don't, for whatever reason, qualify for anything, then that's our number one priority. Like we're here for the folks that are the most vulnerable